So, welcome everybody to the first webinar in a series of webinars that we are planning to do to explain to people all about Pires Investments PLC and its strategy of investing in the technology space. My name is Nick Lee and I'm a director of Pires, and I'm here today with Barry Downs, who is the managing partner of Shore Valley Ventures.
Hi Nick, delighted to be here.
So we can have the next slide. So, Pires is an investment company listed on AIM with a focus on the technology space. The main areas of focus are machine learning, Internet of Things, data security, augmented and virtual reality. And just as an example, one of the portfolio companies, Wardux, actually had a visit from Tim Cook of Apple the other day, and he sent a very interesting tweet out as a result. So, very positive result for that particular company. If we go on to the next slide, so what effectively we did last year was to make an investment in Shore Valley Ventures, which is a private venture capital fund focused on the software technology sector. We actually acquired a 13% share within that fund, which gave us an interest in a portfolio of 10 very exciting companies with significant potential for growth. At the same time, a little later on, we actually did make a direct investment in another company called Get Visibility, which again is another interesting company, and Barry will talk a little bit about that later. We can go on to the next slide. So, notwithstanding the fact that we really only invested in November of last year, we've already achieved some very interesting investment returns. So on this slide, we've got Artomatics, which was a portfolio company that was actually sold in December for a significant uplift on the original valuation. And the proceeds from that, as is the process with the fund, actually gets distributed immediately to investors. So we received a significant amount of money out from that sale. And then the other three companies on this slide, Wardux, Admix and VRE, have either gone through additional funding rounds at much higher valuations, or, for example, with VRE, that's actually already listed on AIM, and since the beginning of the year, its share price has improved quite significantly. So, already great results from our investment last year. So I'm now going to hand over to Barry just to talk in a bit more detail about the vision for the investment portfolio and some more details about the companies.
Thanks very much, Nick. I'm delighted to be here and to be working with you to find these amazing new companies. So just as a bit of background to the portfolio that we put together, we really see artificial intelligence, or AI, and big data changing the world and creating unparalleled opportunities for new technology companies to emerge and to grow and to become very, very large companies. And within that sector, we see a number of related sectors that we're investing in. So the Internet of Things is really about collecting data and big data in the physical world. AI, and particularly machine intelligence or machine learning, is really about processing that data at scale and coming up with new learnings. And then augmented and virtual reality enables new ways of visualizing and presenting that data. And of course, all of this has to be protected with security in the interconnected world that we live in. And so what we're really about in terms of our partnership with Pires is assembling a portfolio of companies across these technology sectors with this key focus on artificial intelligence and big data, and then the subsectors that I spoke about here. And what you can see in the graphs below is that each of these areas have massive potential for very rapid growth over short periods of time. And you'll see, for example, AI software growing from 14 billion to 118 billion over a 5 or 6 year period. IoT growing similarly from 212 billion to 1.6 trillion over 5 to 6 years. And then augmented and virtual reality being at an earlier stage, getting to 571 billion by 2025. So these are very exciting high growth areas. And I guess our goal really here is to find great companies in these sectors, invest in them at an early stage, and then help them grow, investing as they grow as well. And so this slide here gives you an example of the portfolio that we've assembled and how they fit across those technology sectors that we're talking about. So you can see both the augmented reality companies, the virtual reality companies, and of course for some of them there's an overlap between, they do both augmented reality and virtual reality. Similarly, we've got artificial intelligence companies, we've got Internet of Things companies, and also there's an overlap there and an overlap with security as well. As Nick mentioned, on many of these companies, we've got unrealized gain. And we also, you can see here that we sold one of these companies, which is an artificial intelligence company called Artematics. We sold that to a Silicon Valley giant, Unity Technologies, just before Christmas of last year. Well, what I'll do is I'll walk through each of those companies at a high level, and then I'll come back and I'll show how they fit together in a different kind of visualization of this in terms of cyclical growth. But just to say that these companies are performing extremely well at the moment, and Nick, you highlighted a couple of them there, including immersive VR education. That's a company that's changing the way education is delivered using virtual reality, and of course that's more important now in this COVID-19 environment than it ever has been. The company has this education platform called Engage, where not only can students do distance learning, but actually they can put on a VR headset and feel like they're in the same room as other students and their teacher as well, or their lecturer. This company can also run conferences using their virtual reality Engage platform, and they recently ran a conference for HTC very successfully as well. So we'll talk a bit about these as we go through. I might just talk about some of the overlapping companies. Novalia, for example, is an Internet of Things company. It's also a security company, and it's also an AI company as well. So very, very interesting company. We've got Ambisense, which is an IoT and AI company, and Get Visibility, which is a recent investment that Pires made. That's a data security company that uses artificial intelligence at scale. So we'll talk a little bit more about these as we go through the presentation. And actually, first up is Immersive VR Education, the company I just mentioned. And in addition to their Engage platform, the company has also produced some wildly popular edutainment experiences. And the company became famous prior to its IPO for something called the Apollo 11 VR experience. And that was effectively a journey to the moon in virtual reality. So you can put on your virtual reality headset and you're sitting in the seat of Neil Armstrong, blasting off from Cape Canaveral in 1969 to go to the moon, and you follow that entire journey all the way to the moon. And it was a fantastic piece of work because it was entertaining, but it was also historically accurate, it was emotional. And I have to say, when I first put this my headset on and tried this product out, particularly watching Neil Armstrong take that first step in the moon, I felt like I was transported back to the moon myself back in 1969. And it really highlights the power of virtual reality. And particularly now when we're all locked down at home, virtual reality is going through this massive growth period where people are actually using virtual reality for education and entertainment and for business. So this company, as you mentioned, Nick, it's now, we IPO'd the company in 2018, and this company stock has gone up substantially this year because it signed a number of contracts due to COVID-19 and the environment we're in, and will continue to do so as well. I expect to see very positive things from that company. The second company just to highlight is a company called Wardux. and that's a VR and AR game studio. And that's the one at the start of the presentation that you showed that tweet from Tim Cook, where he went in to visit the company and saw their next product, which is an augmented reality mobile game, very similar in conception to Pokemon Go, where you're using augmented reality in the physical world. And he just thought that product, as you could see from the tweet, he just thought that product was incredible, and they expect to bring that product to market, I think in alpha at the end of the year, and then it'll be on general release early next year as well. So look out for that. In the meantime, the company's had tremendous success with augmented reality titles based around products in the US. One of them was called Sushi Mushi, and then they also had great success in VR, both on console, Sony PlayStation, and on PC, and also on some of the mobile VR headsets, such as the Oculus Quest product, and before that the Oculus Go. And they had great success with a number of titles that were roller coaster titles, and before that something called Sneaky Bears, which are these lovable teddy bears. Now that's the only games studio in the portfolio, but it's a great one to have in the portfolio because there's huge potential for the augmented reality game that they're bringing out next year, and I think that was highlighted by Tim Cook in his tweet as well. So we're really looking forward to seeing that product hit the market towards the end of this year. In terms of other augmented and virtual reality companies, there's one called AdMix, and AdMix is what you call a fully programmatic monetization platform for AR, for VR, and for 3D gaming. And that's 3D gaming on mobile, and also 3D gaming on PC, and also on console as well. And effectively what they do is they sign up publishers on one hand, like game publishers that want to place realistic advertising in game. So for example, you might be able to see a Coke can in a video game, or if it's a racing game, the billboards can be filled by advertisers as well. So on one hand, they sign up publishers to do that, and on the other hand, they sign up advertising platforms and they sign up advertisers to deliver adverts into the platforms. And it's fully programmatic because it doesn't really require any human intervention. Everything is automatic through an auction process. So the net result of that is the company is incredibly scalable and is experiencing very, very high growth at the moment. And I think, Nick, you put out an RNS, I was either last week or I think the week before, on AdMix, and it raising a Series A at a substantial valuation and uplift for our original investment in the fund as well. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. Company's doing great, scaling up very, very rapidly. Lots and lots of positive things going on there. The final AR company I'll talk about is an amazing Cambridge-based company called VividQ. And what VividQ do is they provide the full software pipeline for holography. And that is, as it sounds, that's basically creating holograms in the real world. Now, most of, I'm sure your investors, Nick, will be familiar with holograms in science fiction. So the famous hologram of Princess Leia that R2-D2 beamed out in the very first Star Wars movie. But even fast forward to today, you see holograms in all of the Marvel movies. So for example, Iron Man, where you see holograms in TV programs like Westworld, for example. And holograms have been science fiction for, back to the 70s when Star Wars came out, and possibly even further. But now they're actually a reality because of VividQ. VividQ have world-beating patented technology in creating holographic displays and delivering them at 60 frames per second or 90 frames per second, depending on the hardware. Now the question is, that's great, but what is the use of this wonderful technology? And there's two primary use cases the company are focusing on. The first one is a heads-up display in your car or in your truck, for example. And that's where, let's say we're all used to using kind of mapping software, whether that be in the dash of the car or whether that be something like Google Maps or Apple Maps on your phone in the car. And what the holographic heads-up display will do is it'll take that mapping information and put it into the real world as a hologram. So let's say, Nick, if you were driving in one of these cars that had a vivid queue inside holographic display, what you'd actually see is, let's say you wanted to turn left in 30 meters, you'd actually see that arrow, the turn left arrow, big and bright and yellow and blinking 30 meters in the distance. So that's what it means to put holograms in the real world.
You won't miss your turning if you've got that.
You'll never miss your turn again. You just couldn't possibly do it. And also it's got a number of health and safety applications as well. So let's say if somebody, pedestrian for example, is walking out onto the road, the system can identify that pedestrian and put a big red box hologram around them to give you a visual aid in addition to an auditory aid to help you see that person's potentially going to collide with your car, and you can take appropriate action. So holographic display for cars brings incredible utility to the drivers and also major health and safety applications, and the company's building that out right now. The second application for this is in the area of AR smart glasses, and so they have a product that they have the end-to-end software pipeline to be able to do glasses like mine that are very light, very flexible, and actually project holograms in the real world. And a key thing to enable that is something called the depth of field. When we look at objects in the real world, we can focus our eyes on them. So I can focus my eyes on the screen here with you, Nick, or I can focus on my cup of coffee, which is right next to me, or I can focus on something else. And they can be at different depths in the real world. One of the challenges with augmented reality glasses at the moment, or heads-up displays, is that they tend to have one fixed frame of field of view. And that can cause a bit of eye strain, and it kind of leads to the image not being seen as real. And this company now can do 30 different, or perhaps even more, depths of field using their technology. And that effectively means for the user, it feels completely normal, completely natural. There's no eye strain. And so this is really the technology that we feel will make augmented reality glasses a reality. The team themselves are mostly, initially were mostly PhDs from Cambridge, with some from Oxford as well. So they've got about 15 PhDs in this area, and they've obviously built out the team, and they have an experienced management team now that's taking that product to market. So this you would really describe as a deep tech company, but heavily commercial, heavily engaged in the market. And we haven't spoken too much about that through Pires previously. But I think this is definitely one to watch, and I think one for your investors to take a look at their website, look at the amazing work they're doing. This work could only really be done in two places in the world, Cambridge, UK, and Cambridge, Massachusetts. And this company is really a global leader in this space. And we look forward to seeing the company progress with the support of Pires over the next couple of years. So very quickly, I'd like to talk about some of our IoT and AI companies. So Internet of Things, for those who are not familiar with it, is really an extension of mobile. The mobile phone made sensors very, very cheap. There's lots and lots of sensors embedded in somebody's mobile phone. Out of that came the opportunity to deploy these sensors in agriculture, in cities and buildings. And that's the whole area of the Internet of Things. It's sensors collecting data, that data being then analyzed using, for example, artificial intelligence, delivering value in the real world. And a good example of that is Waya. So Waya is a leading Internet of Things platform for developers and also for smart buildings and smart cities, helping buildings become more green, helping buildings become better utilized, helping better management of energy in those buildings. And the company has introduced a number of core products to help building owners create smart buildings, to help create green buildings, and also energy efficient buildings as well. The company's founder, Conal Lafferty, was recently a Forbes 30 Under 30 award winner, and also part of the management team is an expert from IBM who came in, who had incredible experience with IBM in this particular area, that helped him come in and fine-tune the company's go-to-market strategy. The company's doing great at the moment. As I said, over 60,000 developers signed up on the platform. And I think as we come out of the COVID-19 emergency, we will see this particular company really take off, because it provides the coming out of COVID solution that building owners need. The next company I'd love to talk about is a company called Cameramatics. Now, Cameramatics is really the next evolution in an area called telematics. And this is software for fleet and driver management. And it's kind of on the road to autonomous driving for fleets. So think about fleets of vans, fleets of trucks on the road. And they've really managed to bring together four key technologies to create a kind of world-beating solution. So video input solutions, that's cameras and scanners, smart processing systems, communication systems, and unique AI IP, and also compliance systems for drivers as well. So the company's doing amazingly well right now, primarily trading in the UK and Ireland, and very shortly going to expand into the US and also continental Europe as well. The company's got about 350 customers, is adding between 10 to 35 customers per month. And also it's got great contracts. They last 3 to 5 years. And the company's got a super recurring revenue growth rate of 14%. And also this is a company that's continuing to trade and grow through the COVID emergency, because effectively most of their customers are essential and critical services. So we would see this company as part of the core infrastructure for the UK to keep its supply lines open and to support productivity and growth in the fleet management sector. And then the final one to talk about on this particular slide here is a company called Artematics. And that's the company that I mentioned earlier on, I think you did as well, Nick, that was sold to Unity Technologies in December 2019. Now, all in all, we invested and we exited that company within 14 months, which is relatively fast time frame for software companies. Normally takes 2, 3, or 4 years to do that, and we got a 500% increase in our cash and our cash on cash return in that 14 months. So that was a great investment for us, great investment for your investors as well. And the reason we were able to get that return so quickly is that Artematics used artificial intelligence to improve the productivity of the video games industry, and also special effects and AR and VR as well. And effectively they used AI to cut the cost of production of video games. Now, this is a big deal, Nick, because video games can be very expensive to make. So if you look at what are called AAA video games, or the type of games you see on consoles, such as Call of Duty, they can take an enormous amount of money to make, for example, $300 million, and can take 4 to 6 years to come to market. In fact, Call of Duty, I think, is on a 3-year cycle, but other video games have taken more than $300 million, and some have taken 6 years to bring to the market, such as Destiny. So if you can have a real impact on the cost of production and the time to market, that's amazing value add. The other thing I should say, it does this by automating some of the artist processes in video games. And this is an example of artificial intelligence rising all boats or expanding the market. There's not enough artists to create the content everybody wants. And those artists actually end up for a lot of their time doing non-productive things that they don't want to do, kind of moving one pixel here to there. Well, artists love Artomatics because it frees them up to do higher creativity work and take some of the drudge work out of the job, but also enables the companies then to do more with less and overall expand the market opportunity in the gaming industry. So Unity acquired the company, and they're growing the team, and expect to see substantial, I guess, improvements in how video games are created as a result of the development of that company now as part of Unity. Some other companies then that are in the portfolio. So we have Novalia, and Novalia is a security company and an AI company, and it's also an IoT company, because effectively what Novalia does is it protects IoT medical devices, so connected medical devices. So an example might be a pacemaker, for example, or a connected insulin pump. Now, the problem these devices have at the moment is they're a combination of hardware and software, and they're connected to the internet, and anything that's connected to the internet can be hacked. And there are cases where hackers have hacked pacemakers, insulin pumps, and a whole range of other connected medical devices. Now, they're hacking them primarily to get onto a hospital network, but they could potentially kill the patient while they're doing that as well. So this is a really serious area, both for patient safety and also for hospital safety as well. And you might remember, Nick, that the health service in the UK was shut down a few years ago by a virus, and it caused incredible difficulties. And we certainly wouldn't want a repeat of that right now in the COVID-19 scenario. That would be disastrous for everybody. So, great story here. The founder of this company, Anita Finnegan, went and did a PhD in this space at a top research center in this area. When she finished her PhD, she built the software to manage cybersecurity risk for medical devices. She also helped write the book as to how cybersecurity should be managed for medical devices. And then this book got taken up by the Chinese government and then by the US government, and she's also now working with the European Commission. And if you produce a medical device in the US right now that's not a ventilator, then it needs to be assessed for cybersecurity. And she provides the end-to-end platform to do that and to monitor it in real time once the device is once it's deployed into either patients or in hospitals as well. So she's monitoring that device in real time for threats. So amazing company. The founders won a host of awards in 2019, bringing this product to the market, including a Best New Company award. And it was also recently a finalist in the European Commission's Future Unicorn Award at the Digital Europe Awards in Brussels. So this is definitely one to watch. Companies ramping up right now. And I think particularly in this COVID-19 environment, everybody's becoming much more aware of the health service and requirements for medical devices, and securing them is a job number one thing for all companies. Similarly, Ambisense is an IoT company that uses artificial intelligence as well, and it's you can really see this company as a green IoT AI company, because they provide the first IoT sensor for real-time continuous monitoring of gas and other environmental conditions and industrial sites, and then uses an artificial intelligence platform for environmental monitoring. So the company is really a kind of a green tech company that uses IoT and AI to make building sites safer, and for development. And the company's won some amazing contracts recently, and I think, Nick, you might have put an RNS out on one of these. For example, a big contract we won recently was from the Lower Thames crossing preliminary works. Did you put that out?
We did, yes, yeah, because that's one of the biggest construction projects since the M25.
Yeah, totally, and you can see here it's a new dual carriageway and tunnel system linking Essex and Kent, and it's the biggest single road construction project, as you mentioned there, since the M25 was completed more than 30 years ago. So they're an essential part of that. The company's doing great. And then to wrap up the kind of tour of the companies, we've got two new ones. And Nick, you invested directly in Get Visibility.
Yes.
And I think you RNS that recently as well.
Yeah, in March.
So what Get Visibility does is it uses artificial intelligence at scale to discover, classify, and protect the 80% of an organization's data held in unstructured documents, i.e. PDF files, Word documents, or Excel spreadsheets. Now, of course, with things like GDPR, all enterprises need to lock down and protect their data and ensure that there's no breaches of data security. And about 20% of data is held, on average, 20% of data is held in databases, but 80% are in documents. And typically in a lot of organizations, the organization doesn't know where the documents are, or doesn't know what's in those documents, and thus it can be very difficult to classify them and either migrate them to the cloud or to lock them down with certain permissions. Get Visibility solves all of that, it solves it using new artificial neural network technologies. And so it can at scale look into every document, it can analyze what that document is, it can classify it, and it can actually set it up for migration to the cloud or being locked down. In addition to that, the company can also help as new documents or emails, for example, are created. It can help analyze them and categorize them and lock them down in real time as well. So the company's got groundbreaking technology. The key thing that they have is if you're analyzing these documents at scale, you need to have, and you're doing it automated without human intervention, it needs to be very, very reliable. And what the company does differently to everybody else is using kind of groundbreaking new neural network technology to do that with the highest possible 99% accuracy to be able to do that at scale and help organizations get to grips with this real challenge for them at the moment. And just to give you an example of that, I became aware of a project in a small bank recently where they had hired a consultant, a large top 5 consulting organization to help them with this project for one set of documents, and there was 40 people in there manually looking at documents, trying to identify if there was payment card information in those documents because they needed to be secured. Get Visibility solves that problem. You know, once the software is installed, it can eliminate the need for those 40 people doing it, and in fact will not only do that one class of document, but it'll check for payment card information, personally identifiable information, or any other information that you want to check on, and do that at scale in an automated fashion. So really, really groundbreaking company, and we're really looking forward to seeing the progress as that company develops. And then the final one that I'll touch on here is a brand new one. You would have announced that just very recently, Nick, which was BuyMe. And BuyMe really solves a major COVID-19 problem, which is delivery of groceries to your home. And anybody who's tried to do this at the moment will be in any kind of metro area will find it's very, very difficult to get real-time delivery of groceries. Typically, I think it's you can order online, and it might take a week or 2 weeks, or I've heard 3 weeks for delivery. Well, clearly, that is not ideal in a COVID environment. And what Buy Me do is they've got this peer-to-peer platform that can you can order groceries and have them delivered same day. And they pride themselves on being able to actually do it within 1 hour, which is an extraordinary thing. And they've used a combination of artificial intelligence, optimization, and this core platform to enable that to occur, and also some key partnerships as well, with Lidl, for example, to enable that delivery. So it also helps with employment as well, because part of the way they do this is they sign up pickers, people who will go into the store to actually pick up groceries for you and for others, and then deliver them to your home. So this company is going to help with the unemployment situation in the UK as well, by helping people, really do amazing good in society and get paid for it. Become a Buy Me picker, go in and pick up groceries for people who might be cocooning, who need home delivery, and to be able to do that same day for them. So we were delighted to announce that investment. The company is shortly going to announce some core partnerships in the UK, and also is going to expand through all of the metro areas in the UK over the next short period of time. So this is one I think is what that I think it again is another piece of major infrastructure for the UK economy. Buy Me is going to make food delivery more efficient, more timely, and it's going to help those people who are cocooning as well. Now, maybe just to conclude that discussion on the portfolio companies, Nick, I just wanted to show, how they sit, how our companies sit and are positioned with regard to COVID-19. And because that's a very important thing for investors to know right now. And what we're showing on this particular slide here is some excellent work that Deal Room have done. And they're a very well-respected market research firm. And particularly they look at tech companies. And they've looked at the current situation with regard to cyclicality and also structural issues. And they've come up with a model of areas of technology companies that are green, i.e. they're cyclically positive and structurally positive. And these are areas that are going to grow right now. They've come up with some areas that are orange, where they might not grow as quickly and there may be some challenges. And then they've come up with some areas that are red. And these are really areas that technology companies are struggling in right now. Clustered also around this, they've got some areas in gray. And these are areas that are, generally pretty positive, and right on that central axis. Telecom hosting would be one, for example. FinTech would be another, or frontier tech or clean tech would be generally in pretty good shape, but may not get a COVID bounce, but will continue on delivering value to society and also to investors, pretty much unimpeded by COVID. So that's the framework, and so we have mapped our companies, the ones I've just spoken about, onto that framework to show where they fit. And you'll notice that I have Ambisense here in the kind of clean tech area of the matrix. I've got VividQ in the deep tech, and then we've got Waya in the kind of telecoms / hosting area, because it's an IoT cloud platform that developers sign up for. What's really interesting about the portfolio is right now, this portfolio demonstrates both cyclical positivity and also structural positivity as well. And maybe to explain a couple of examples as to why that's the case. If you look, for example, at immersive VR education, everybody's at home right now and using technology such as Zoom, for example, as we're on right now, to communicate with each other. And the next level up from that is getting into virtual reality and doing communications or education in virtual reality. And so immersive VR education, as I mentioned earlier on, is a very COVID-19 positive company in that it is helping people overcome the distance of working from home and being able to communicate together. And they showed that with the work they did with HTC to run that conference in virtual reality. And they also showed it in a recent RNS about engaging the education community in the US around virtual reality as well. So this is a company that's really helping out in the current situation and is actually benefiting from it as well, because it's actually rolling out a whole series of contracts. Wardux is very similar. The whole kind of gaming sector, as you can imagine, with people at home, has shown actually massive increase in volume of people playing video games, whether they be console, PC, or mobile, since the start of COVID-19. And Wardux is one of those companies that's very positive as a result of that. Similarly, Admix is a company that helps monetize video games, and we've seen an upsurge in advertising for video games alongside the upsurge in playing of video games as well. So this is why the company is very well positioned. And then if you look at Buy Me, for example, we just spoke about that. I mean, that is a company that is delivering an incredibly valuable service, particularly to people who are cocooning, providing employment in the economy, and it's a company its growth is being accelerated by the needs that we all have for food delivery and grocery delivery in particular as a result of COVID. Then if you go to Cameramatics, well, Cameramatics is helping keeping supply chains open and helping those companies become more productive and more efficient in keeping supply chains open, for example, for grocery delivery. And then finally, on the two final companies, Get Visibility and Novalia, there's been an upsurge in cybersecurity issues and hacker attacking with COVID-19, unfortunately, and security is even more important today in the COVID-19 scenario than it was previously. So those companies are really helping out in this situation as well. So hopefully that gives you kind of a whirlwind tour or world stop tour of the companies, Nick, and how we see them positioned. And I know that this is just a kind of an overview. I know that you're going to be doing interviews with the founders of those companies in the webinar series that you're doing over the next few weeks.
Yes, no, that's right. Well, Barry, thank you very much for that very interesting analysis of all the companies within the portfolio, and we very much look forward to talking to you all again when we drill into some of the individual companies in a bit more detail and talk to the actual founders. So thank you very much for listening.
Oh, Nick, thanks very much for your time, and look forward to continuing our fantastic partnership and investing in more great companies and communicating what we're doing to your investors as well. So great talking to you, and look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you, Barry.